Set to go? Thank you. So we have all the members that are attending this evening here in the room with us. So all members participating in the meeting are present in the meeting room. The public has the option of attending in person here at the Town Hall via Zoom using the link posted in this meeting's agenda. This meeting is being recorded. That all said, I'll call the public meeting to order for July 16th, 2024. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 1 on the agenda is an executive session. The executive session is being called pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to consider strategy with respect to negotiations with non-union personnel, non-union town employees, and 2, approval of executive session minutes from July 9th, 2024. Mrs. Lazarus, so we would just entertain a motion, which is probably in the motions doc, right?
Yes, so moved.
There is. So we do have that motion. Mary Jo, do you mind just giving the exact motion right there, please?
Okay. I move to enter into executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to consider strategy with respect to negotiations for non-union personnel, which are non-union as town employees, to appropriate executive session to approve executive session minutes, to allow Elaine Lazarus to participate in the executive session, and to reconvene an open session at the conclusion of the executive session.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Mrs. Ritterbush. No, it's fine. It's all right. Mrs. Ritterbush, please.
Amy Ritterbush, yes.
Joe Clark, yes.
Mayor Joe Lafreniere, yes.
Brian Herr, yes. So with that, we have to go in and close the door. So we'll take care of that, and we'll be back as soon as possible. We have it slotted for 30 minutes at this point, just so you know. 6:30. We'll come out of executive session. We came out of executive session. We started the evening with that executive session. And now we'll move to item number 3, which is public forum. Residents are invited to share ideas, opinions, or ask questions regarding their town government. Would anyone like to say hello? Please.
I came here to speak up for Timmy Bolvin, who's been the staunch advocate for the victim.
I'm sorry, name
Sorry,
it.
78 Pine Island Road. I should know this by now.
Steve Snow.
Steve Snow. So I came tonight to speak up for Timmy Bolvin. Unfortunately, he was unable to make it tonight. But he's been the staunch advocate for the victim of this through thick and thin. My first meeting here, I stood up and said I wasn't here to support the victim. I was here to support Sergeant Timothy Brennan, because Timothy Brennan was doing a really good job of supporting this woman without the help of anybody from this town. And we all know what happened when the town tried to deal with this. Information that was unnecessarily given out. Laws were broken. It's already been proven. People aren't being prosecuted as far as the Northwest District has said. But important to know that every dog has his day. I mean, people that are responsible for the dirtiness that's happened over this case, they're not going to get punished by me. They're not going to get punished by you, but they will be punished by somebody. We call it karma, call it the good Lord, whatever. The other thing, I wanted to congratulate publicly Elaine. I think you're going to be a really good fit for this for the town. And at your meet and greet, unfortunately, I had to work. But one of the things you had said was transparency of the government of this town, and we really would like to see that. I mean, I think Mr. Senior had said that he does a weekly podcast or blog. I think it's good for the people of this town to have a clue what's going on before it turns into what all of this stuff has turned into. And that should do it. You, ladies and gentlemen, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public forum? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. The Select Board will consider the following consent agenda items: amendment to the intermunicipal agreement for the Central Massachusetts Regional Stormwater Coalition. And we have new town employees. The Select Board will consider confirming the town manager's appointment of Lysandra Mooney Sanchez, Administrative Assistant, DPW, Shane Dunn, did I get that right, Elaine? Shannon Dunn, sorry, Payroll Manager Sarah Nordstrom as the Benefits Administrator. So 2 is consent agenda items. Anybody want to break anything out?
I'd like to just hear a little more about the mosquito agreement change. Is that, oh, stormwater, not, sorry, that was mosquito agreement. So it's just a change of the municipality?
It's just a change in the lead community.
Okay. Then I guess I don't need to pull that up.
All set? Anybody have anything else they want to ask or break anything out? The chair will entertain a motion for the consent agenda as presented.
I move that the consent agenda be accepted as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Elaine, please be sure to welcome the new employees to the town government on our behalf. Thank you. Item number 5. The Select Board will consider annual appointments to various town boards, committees, commissions, and the appointment of certain town officials. So first up, item A, the Select Board will consider appointing members of the following boards and committees: the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, Council on Aging, Marathon Committee, Personnel Committee, Trail Coordination and Management Committee, and the Woodville Historic District Commission. Elaine.
We have several applicants for board and committee memberships. As in the last time that the board did this, you can group them by the uncontested versus the contested seats and take a vote on the uncontested ones first. All the applicants have been notified of the meeting, and they may all or some be here, both in person and on Zoom as well, if you wanted to ask them any questions.
So can you walk us through the committees and boards that are uncontested at this time?
So at this time, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, we have one applicant for one seat, and it's James Burton. And for the Personnel Committee, we have two openings, and it's Karen Mulick and Bob Levinson have applied. And for the Woodville Historic District Commission, Nancy Peters has requested reappointment.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about those uncontested positions?
I have a letter from the Marathon Committee.
For an uncontested?
I don't think they're contested, are they? No.
I don't think Elaine had that one in your list.
We're just talking about the three uncontested.
So go ahead, one more time, Elaine. The Affordable Trust, right?
So James Burton for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, Karen Mulick and Bob Levinson for the Personnel Committee, and Nancy Peters for the Woodville Historic District Commission. So there were no other applicants for these positions.
Got it.
Okay.
So the chair will entertain a motion to appoint the individuals to the three uncontested boards and committees, being the Affordable Housing Committee, the Personnel Committee, and the Woodville Historic District Commission as applied for.
I move to approve the appointments of the uncontested committees for Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, Personnel Committee, and Woodville Historic District Commission.
Okay? Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That leaves us, if I read this correctly, the Council on Aging, the Marathon Committee, the Trail Coordination and Management Committee, where we may have contested races, correct?
We do.
Okay. Let's start with the Council on Aging.
So with the Council on Aging, there are 3 full member vacancies and 1 associate member vacancy, and we have 6 applicants, including the 4 incumbents, Gail Levine, Paula Haas, Nancy Draw, and Sandra Story, who's currently an associate member. And then new applicants are Iris Deckler and Karen Kong.
Okay.
And all or some of them may be present.
So do the math for me one more time, please.
6 people, 4 spots.
2 of them being new applicants.
2 names, yeah.
Okay. And the Council on Aging has been doing a fabulous job on behalf of the community for many, many years. Does anybody see any need to change anything on the Council on Aging?
I don't, but I'd be happy to hear from anyone who's here in the audience in case some of the new people
Okay.
speak up.
Any thoughts on changing or not changing? We'll come back to that, Amy, that's fine.
Okay.
No, I'm looking at the liaison list, and I'm going to be the new liaison to the Council of Aging. I'm looking forward to that
Okay.
very much.
Joe, any thoughts on whether we should change or not change, or?
Nope, but I would,
No, I
like
don't
Amy,
see it.
I'd like to hear who's here.
Okay, so those folks that are here for the Council on Aging, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand, please. We see 2. Okay, great. Why don't we start with these 2, and then we can go from there. We have anybody on Zoom this evening by chance?
We do, but not with any of those names.
Okay. All right, so, ma'am, if you wouldn't mind joining us first. If you could give us your name and address, please.
Sure. I am Paula Hawes from 19 Mount Auburn Street, Apartment 2. And I've served on the Council on Aging for 1 term and just really, really enjoyed it and find it very interesting and something that really needs to be taken seriously. This senior center is a real jewel. I've visited several other senior centers and have taken classes and things like that at other ones. And this one is extraordinary. And I'd like to keep it that way and find ways to improve it even above from what it is. I have had previous experience on nonprofit boards. I've had experience on an extremely small town council in a town of 45 people that basically incorporated to put in a water system and maintain the water system. So I have experience in this area, and I've really enjoyed the experience on the board and would like to continue.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Paula?
No?
No questions.
Set. Thank you very much, Paula. Punky, do you want to join us, please? Welcome, thank you for being here.
Thanks. Thank you. This is my third go-around, I
Name
believe.
and address for the folks at home, please.
Nancy Draw, 13 Davis Road. I believe this is my third go-around as a member of the Council on Aging. I was for the past 2 years, I have been the chairperson, and I would like to continue in the same role, and as well continue for another term in the Council on Aging. I just can't imagine not being part of them. It's amazing what we can do. We, as a board, there are 9 of us, and we are all advisors for the staff. So that's our job, is to advise the staff as to what, we think that if we hear comments from some of the seniors or things that they'd like improved or extra activities that they tell us about. I mean, our job is to go around and to talk to the other seniors and see what they feel like. And we always get great reviews. The lunch is the best. I mean, the senior center is the best around, and even people from out of town come to our senior center because they say that we have the best program, the best lunches, etc. So we report these comments back to the staff when we have a meeting, and so it's really important for me to be involved with the seniors, since I live in the senior community also, and I'm on the housing board, so I have the best of both worlds. I get to hear from where I live, and also from up the street from different seniors who also might live on Davis Road. So in that capacity, like I said, I get the best of both worlds, and I really enjoy meeting new seniors that are brought in weekly, monthly, because of word of mouth. And it's only because of the great job that the staff is doing there, and managing new programs. And like I said, we advise them. And if there's anything that we learn, they're really good about getting new programs started if we advise them. So that's pretty much our job, and I really enjoy it and hope I can stay on for another term. Thanks.
Great, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for Nancy?
No questions.
Great, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Okay, anybody else here this evening now? Anyone else come in for the Council on Aging positions? Anybody want to take a crack at what we should do next, then, given the numbers?
So I think I would reappoint the 3 full members and the alternate member, Sandra Story, their associate member.
I would do the same.
I'm sorry.
Reappoint the 3 full-term members, and then Sandra, the associate member.
Okay.
I agree.
Everybody agrees?
Yep. I
Okay.
make a motion that we reappoint Gail Levine, Paula Haas, and Nancy Draw, with Sandra Story as currently an associate member to the Council on Aging.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to reappoint the incumbents, basically, correct? Which is, I think, the best move to go here. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. Thank you all for coming this evening, and congrats, and keep up that great work. Love it. Okay, Marathon Committee.
The Marathon Committee continues to be popular. There are 7 vacancies and 11 applicants, including the 7 incumbents. So the people seeking reappointment are Judith Patassi, Jane Goodman, Alex Danahy, Greg Gormley, Chuck Wallace, Jacques Leduc, and Jean Can. And then the new applicants are Mohammed Haider, Victor Velasquez, Lucy Harmon, and Iris Deckler.
I can see some of them are on Zoom.
Yeah, some are on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll come to them in a minute here. So another great committee that's done fabulous work on behalf of the town forever and literally put us on the map around the world. So those folks that are here this evening for the Marathon Committee, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand. 1, 2, 3.
Bob Levinson.
Is Bob in the Marathon?
He was, yeah.
It's here for personnel.
He may not be up this year again, though.
Yeah, I don't see Bob's name for that. So not the Marathon Committee. Okay, that was for the Personnel Committee, Bob. That is done, and you're in. So hang out if you like. Okay, so why don't we have the folks that are here with us first in the room come up and say hello one at a time, and then we'll go to Zoom, and then we'll take it from there like we did the last one. So folks, if you want to join us one at a time, maybe Dottie, if you want to come first, and just give us a quick interest in, or reason why you continue to be interested, or you want to be interested or get involved, and
I'm just
great.
here to represent.
if you could just do name and address for everyone.
Dorothy Farida Walls, 57 Pinecrest Village.
Great.
I'm here to represent the people that couldn't be here, that are reapplying, because there was one date and then we were reassigned another date, and some have vacations and another one has a college prep. I think it's going on at the same time as your meeting. So I sent an email off today, late, sorry, but I just wanted to speak on their behalf. They've done an exceptional job. I mean, the Marathon Committee is a little different than other committees. Many people on the Marathon Committee have volunteered for a number of years. I think at minimum, they volunteered 6 years before they got onto the Marathon Committee. I myself, I think I volunteered 13. So there's experience that goes with the positions. You can't just, okay, drop this person into this position. So that's what some of the nuances of the different positions. And they certainly have institutional knowledge that they've had, that they learned throughout the course and everything. But they're coming from years of volunteering for the Boston Marathon, then coming into the different various positions. Had they, like a perfect example is Craig Gormley. He volunteered under me in the information booths for years. And then when I moved to another position, we needed to fill that void with somebody who had the experience. So on day one, he could take over for me and there wouldn't be any lapse of, contacts. I mean, a lot of the things that go on with the Marathon Committee is the contacts that you build over the years with the BAA, with residents, with, businesses in town, things like that. I mean, they're developed over time. And so that's what we recommend, that people come and volunteer for the Boston Marathon in various positions. And if anybody wants to do that, I've said that a number of years, but then the people don't contact me after. But anybody that is interested, I'd like to get them as a volunteer for the Boston Marathon so they can experience and see what goes on and, understand what we do.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Any questions for Dottie?
No, she's absolutely right. I mean, continuity is everything on that committee, and each member of that committee has their own full team of volunteers and people doing a particular job or a lot of jobs, and it takes a lot of time and it's a lot of effort and elbow grease, and it's not an organizational thing necessarily. It's you actually do work, as Judy Patassi back there can attribute. We'll hear from you in a minute, I think. Okay. No, I think it's just great, and people do. I mean, I volunteered first and spent my time as a volunteer and then got on the Marathon Committee, and I don't know too many people who you have to really know something about it and how to do it before you get on there.
Another example is Alex Danahy. He volunteered. He volunteered probably 4 years before he turned 18. And then he's now volunteering with the wheelchairs, with the hand cycles and everything, and loves it. And he's head of a team. So those are things, I mean, but he said, I want to be on there, you know. And when he turned 18, he was able to get on the committee, and the path was there.
Just to say, you know, well, we have people volunteer, and their expertise, like they say, is marketing or something like that, but this isn't what the Marathon Committee does or is about. It's the BAA's race. It's not our race. We support the BAA in getting the race done. So, you know, marketing is something different. It's a different aspect of the race.
Okay, great. Joe?
No questions. Thank you, Dottie.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally understand, and we've done it this way before too, that I think it makes sense to reappoint the people currently on it, but I also think it's always important to get new volunteers, because you never know when a current committee member might step down in a future year. So if the new applicants might be willing to give their emails to Dottie, she could probably give them a volunteer job for
I've offered that every time we're here. So I'd be more than, be a pleasure to get them on, because I pride getting Hopkinton people as volunteers, because they know the towns, they know the streets, they know the stores, they know how to direct people should they need. So they know a lot about the town.
But I would like to maybe hear briefly from Mohammed, Victor, and Lucy. We're all on the Zoom.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. in a
Okay.
second. So from my vantage point, it's very much an operational organization, having seen this thing from a couple of different angles over the years. And what you guys do is fabulous, but it's not something to learn on the fly, because you could create all kinds of havoc if you made a mistake somewhere along the way. So it is your recommendation then that we would reappoint those that are incumbents this evening and encourage those that want to get involved to volunteer first through your organization, and then maybe in a future year come back and get on the committee. Is that correct?
Because then we can alert them to, I mean, and some people may get a taste of it and then say, oh, it's not what I expected. You know, you always have that. But I think anybody that I've seen get on for different perspectives, and then the time element and things like that later on they realize. But for the most part, people that become a volunteer stay a volunteer, especially in Hopkinton. So, and all of us are getting older, so, you know, I'm willing to have people like volunteer and get to know what the Marathon Committee does, how the race is run. I mean, from the big picture or reading an article and things, you see certain elements, but working it and being involved, you see the big picture.
Okay, great. Is there anyone else here this evening for the Marathon Committee appointments that is not an incumbent that's interested in serving? I believe we might have somebody online that's not an incumbent.
3 people that
Three
are not
people.
incumbent.
Right, okay, so I think it's reasonable to give them a minute or two to introduce themselves and express their interest. We really don't need to be kind of sold on the idea of the next person's up, you know, next people up, if you will. Please just give us your kind of intro and reasons for wanting to serve, and then we'll kind of go through it as quick as we can. So why don't, I mean, you want to guide us there? I can't see who's
There's
there.
Mohammed Haider.
Yes, hi, my name is Mohammed Heather. I am currently, I live at 8 Chadwick Way in Hopkinton. Been here since 2018. I currently serve on the Capital Improvement Committee. This is my second term. I am interested in volunteering with the Boston Marathon Committee. If that's how we want to run this, that's not a problem. I bring a unique perspective. I have a business in Hopkinton as well. I've been involved in sales and marketing since 2001 from a professional perspective, and can bring some of relationships with me if needed. Thank you.
Mohammed, thank you for that introduction. I think I heard you say that you'd be more than willing to volunteer to get rolling with the committee, and then maybe...
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, great. That's good. Thank you so much. Anybody have any questions for Mohammed beyond that? Okay, how about Victor, Amy, or Lucy, or Ira?
They're both on. So Victor Velasquez.
Hi, everyone. This is Victor Velasquez. I live in 27 Grove Street. The reason why I'm interested in the Marathon Committee, my partner and I bought a house on Grove Street last year, not only because we wanted to start our family here, but also because we are both passionate runners. I have run the Boston Marathon 3 times. I believe the last year I was the fastest Hopkinton resident to finish the marathon. While I don't have any experience as a volunteer, I have experience as a participant and also many connections with local runner communities around Boston. And I would like to help in any capacity, just as a runner, as an enthusiast, I guess, fan of the marathon, and also now a member of Hopkinton Town.
Great, thank you, Victor, for that intro and your level of interest. Would you be interested in volunteering on behalf of the committee first and then looking at an appointment in a subsequent year?
I would love that. However, I have plans to continue to run the marathon as long as I can qualify. So that's kind of like what it gets in between volunteering and participating in the marathon. If there is any other ways that I can volunteer.
There's a ton of work that's done in advance of Marathon Day that you could certainly help in volunteering on behalf of the committee. The day itself is sort of like the culmination of all the work, but there's plenty of work that goes into it in advance. So maybe that's where you could start, if you'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I would love that.
And then Lucy Harmon is also on Zoom.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lucy. I also live at 27 Grove. Victor and I are domestic partners. Again, just as Victor mentioned, we have been newer residents as of this year, and we've really gotten to know the town of Hopkinton and have really enjoyed how much of a hometown feel Hopkinton brings to the marathon. I also ran the marathon this past year as a volunteer for someone with a disability, and I was a support for that person. And it was just a really great experience. And it really got me curious about the behind the scenes aspects of the marathon. And as Victor had volunteered himself on behalf of the marathon, I would love to volunteer myself on behalf of the committee as well.
Yeah, that would be great, Lucy. Thank you for that intro and kind of a similar, I think you just said it, similar question just to make sure you're okay with the idea of volunteering for a year or two behind the scenes and then looking at a future appointment down the road. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, congratulations to both of you on your marathon running. I have done it myself a few times, and there's nothing better when you step on that finish line. How about Iris?
I don't see Ira on the Zoom.
All right, so with the input from those in attendance and those on Zoom, does anybody have a path that they would want to pursue here?
I would move. You want to go, Mary Jo?
I would like to have Judy Patassi up and tell us what she does for the Marathon Committee, because it's hard work. It's not organization. I mean, it does organizational too, but she does her and her crew do very, very hard work.
So Judy, come on up and give us a 1-minute
It gives you an idea
overview
of
of
what
how
the
hard
jobs
it is.
are. It'll give you an
impossible to do
idea
it
of
in a
what the
minute.
jobs are.
Hi there, I'm Judy Patassi. I live in 19 Standish Road in Bellingham, formerly 3 Maria Lane in Hopkinton. I run the clothing collection and in conjunction with the Big Brothers Big Sisters. And how I started was I was already a volunteer for the BAA, and I ended up seeing clothing being thrown away, and I approached Audie, not very nicely, and said, what are they doing? And she later recruited me, and with the Marathon Committee's blessing, we got a liaison with the Big Brothers Big Sister, and the program is now 20 years old. It was crucial when the bombing happened because the buses went away, and we went from 12,000 pounds to 52,000 pounds of clothing. So it's an integral part of the marathon itself. To get the roads open, you need to get rid of the trash and the clothing. So it's a very important job. I see a couple more years, but I'd be glad to pass the torch at some point. And if we bring in new volunteers, I'll be happy to teach them. But we do, now I went from 30 to 40 volunteers. I have a group of 200. So we have the whole town covered, and I would really like to keep doing it.
Great, thank you very much for that input.
Congratulations on 20 years, too. 52 what pounds?
52,000.
1,000 pounds of clothes?
Year after the bombing.
That's a lot of clothes.
Picked up and bagged and put on trucks, so it's not an easy job.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion specific to the Marathon Committee?
I would move to reappoint Judith Pataki, Jane Goodman, Alex Danahy, Craig Gormley, Chuck Wallace, Jacques Leduc, and Jean Kahn to the Marathon Committee.
Second.
Motion and a table and a second. Just one quick comment before we vote. For those that are interested in volunteering, please do reach out to Dottie. We always need more volunteers. It's a lot of fun, whether it's race day or it's weeks and months in advance, if you really want to see how it all works. We need the help, and it would be very much welcome, and we would appreciate that very, very much. And thanks for coming here this evening.
Oh, just
Another comment to the motion.
comment. The BAA opens volunteers in January, early January. So if you want to volunteer for April, you got to do it early. And when you fill out the application with them, you have to specifically say you want to have duty in Hopkinton. And they'll put you in someplace in Hopkinton. And Dottie can help with that too. She helps.
Great, thank you. Anything else? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. Okay. Next up, Elaine, Marathon Committee Department Representatives. Can you just explain this to us real quick, who these folks are and why we do this?
So the charge of the committee calls for one-year terms for department representatives and specifies those departments, and that's the police department, the fire department, the school department, and the DPW. And their representatives would be Joe Bennett for police, Gary Doherty for fire, Tim Person for school, and Mike Manser for DPW.
Okay.
That's a one-year term.
And there's no contested suggestions or anything along those lines. These are the folks. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move to appoint the following department representatives to the Marathon Committee with terms expiring June 30th, 25. For the police department, Joseph Bennett; the fire department, Gary Doherty; the school department, Tim Pearson; and the Department of Public Works, Mike Manser.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the table for the department representatives. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. All set. Next up, we have the Trail Coordination and Management Committee. We have one at-large vacancy with 2 applicants. The new person is Ira Steckler, and the person seeking reappointment is Peter Lagoy. Do we have Peter here this evening?
I don't see Ira. I'm going to run to the bathroom. You guys can just continue.
Okay. I think Ira was on the last one as well. We
Both of the
didn't.
last two.
Yeah, we didn't see him there. Does Ira serve on any other committees or boards in town? I know his name's come before us. He's very interested in getting involved.
They apply for a number of committees.
So we got to find a way to help him get involved, right?
We can send them a list of vacancies.
Yeah, that would be great, because I think he's obviously very eager to help out, and that's fabulous. Okay, Mr. Lagoy is here with us. Name and address, please, and state your interest.
Peter Lagoy, 21 Hayden Rose Street. I've been a member of the committee since its inception. I've been chair since its inception and would like to continue on. Per our current charge, we are term limited to 3 terms, and so this would be my last term on the board, on the committee.
The upcoming one.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And I'm interested in continuing.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Lagoy?
Nope.
What's that?
Yep.
What's that?
He's been doing a good job.
Trails are always a topic of interest, right, for all of us in town. And what is it? Trees, trash, and trails are some of the 3 things that get people energized more than anything else. There's a couple others I think we can add to the list these days. But, obviously the coordination with the Upper Charles Trails Committee has been a thing in the past. Just give us your quick overview of kind of where we are with that and how you see that moving forward. Not long, drawn-out thing here, but just quick, kind of high level.
I think we need to look at trails in a broader perspective. I think trails should encompass both the woodland trails, but also as a trail committee that's trying to serve the entire population of Hopkinton, we need to be looking at trails that folks are going to be using. And one of the things we're doing in our meeting tomorrow night is actually talking about how do we expand how we reach out to people. So for example, having had my grandkids with us the previous week on being worn out by them, but I did spend some time at EMC Park and thought, boy, you know, we've got the Hughes Trail, it's a great walking trail, but we could expand with a few big rocks for kids to climb on, that kind of thing. We could expand those trails to make them more usable for the general population. If you're at EMC Park, you see a lot of families, people with young kids using it, and I think other ways to get people out on trails is something we ought to be looking at. And I think shared use paths, that's the other thing. We have probably 25 miles or more of trails in town, the single track trails. What people are primarily using is trails like Center Trail, and so we need to be perhaps shifting our focus a little bit to be looking at doing those trails. A trail from West Main Street down by the Lumber Street business development area to town is something we've been talking about for a while, but I think we maybe need to be thinking about shifting our focus to those kind of things. Again, looking at how we more broadly serve the residents of Hopkinton. And I think the Upper Charles Trail or a shared use path like that can be certainly part of that mix.
Coordinated effort,
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions for Peter?
No questions?
Do we have Ira by chance on Zoom? No, still no? Okay. All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we nominate Peter LaGoy for the at-large position on the Trails Coordination Management Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the table for the term to expire June 30th, 27. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you, Peter.
Yep,
thank you.
And yeah, I think, Elaine, I'd love to see if we can't get Ira a list of those committees that are open where we could use some help. I'd be happy to chat with him too if he wants to just talk.
Sure.
Okay. Select board appointments. So this is sort of us doing other things, not necessarily board and committee related. The first item here, or the first two items here, are for the town council, Harrington Heap, and for labor council at Merrick O'Connell. Both of these appointments we're working through all kinds of different things with at this time. Would it be an issue, Elaine, if we tabled these right now? Because their contracts are in effect until otherwise, or is there a date certain that they expire?
I don't believe there's a date certain.
I would be inclined myself anyway to table these two appointments to a future date.
I certainly share that opinion. It's worth reevaluating, understanding all of our options. We had a good meeting with them last Tuesday, but I'd love to kind of sit on this one for a little bit.
Anybody else, any other thoughts about tabling it for now? Mary Jo, anything?
No, I know Merrick and O'Connell do a lot of things at the senior center too. They volunteer for helping seniors. That's just an aside. I understand that it's Labor Council. I do have some questions of Labor Council.
Okay. Amy?
I don't have any objections to pausing it as long as they would still be our attorney for the time being.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to wait too long. And if there's some research or other information we can gather on them or other attorneys?
Well, we do have this piece of work that they were going to compile for us, at least on the Harrington Heap side of things, following our last meeting. I'm just curious to see what that is and see how that kind of, what that does for us going forward in terms of policy and procedure. So I just want to see the quality, not the quality of that so much, but just what the content of that is before we get into all this other stuff.
Our next meeting is August 6th. Do you think that we could get something from them by August?
I'll see if we can. Mm-hmm.
So did you think we needed to confirm like their term length or like a certain expiration date? I know you said sooner rather than later, but do we need to confirm that?
So they're appointed for a year, so the year has expired. However, they'll continue to work under the current conditions. But, the more the year goes along, the more the town is entering into perhaps new litigation or other things happening, and we would want to think about that.
You also mentioned, possibly reviewing other options. What would the process look like for that?
Typically, there's an RFP process,
Timing on that?
solicit proposals.
Timing typically for that?
It could take maybe 3 months or so.
Okay.
And maybe for next time, could we have, which roles do each of the two provide? The LNG facility, is that Harrington Heap, or is that, okay. And they've done a very good job on that part for us.
Okay, so with that, I don't think we need to vote that per se, right? We just kind of table it at the moment. Let's move ahead to the chair's designees. Select Board Chair's designee to the Metro West Regional Transit Authority Advisory Board is Mary Jo Lafreniere. You've been serving on that in the past, correct?
Yes, I have.
Does anyone else have any interest in the MWRTA?
We were very fortunate from the MWRTA to get 2 vehicles to the senior center. One will carry a wheelchair lift, and the other is for the seniors. And then when they switched to all-electric vehicles. So it's a good board. I enjoy being on it.
So why don't I'll entertain a motion to appoint Mary Jo Lafreniere to the Metro West Regional Transit Authority to a term expiring June 30th, 2025.
I'll make the motion. Or did you make the motion?
Yeah, it's just so moved. Just say so moved, yeah. So Amy so moves, and is there a second?
Second.
Joe is a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous and so voted. So Mary Jo, congrats, MWRTA.
Thanks.
Select Board Chair designee to represent Hopkinton on the MBTA Advisory Board as an ex officio member.
That's different than the regional, okay, that's the regional versus the.
Yeah, so the first one was a regional transit authority, so that's basically the bus service in and around town, connecting to Metro West. This is being on the MBTA Advisory Board, but notice where it says ex officio member. That means you go there and you listen, but you don't do a whole lot, you don't get the vote. I had done this in the past, and while the MBTA does a great service to the Massachusetts commuter population, and certainly helps us here in Hopkinton with the Southborough Station and Ashland and everything else, I myself would not be interested in serving on that board as an advisory member in an ex officio status, because it's, I don't know, it's time. You go to Boston, the meetings I was going to, maybe that's changed over the years because of Zoom and everything else, but it was a lift, and I felt like I would spend half a day and not get a whole lot done, if I'm being honest. So with that great introduction, who wants to do it?
No one's done it for several years.
Yeah, I don't think we have to fill it either.
No.
It's not required. Does anybody have any interest in going in or being part of the MBTA advisory board?
No.
Nope.
I mean, interest, but not the time, if you have to go into Boston, yeah.
Does anybody in the audience want to be on the MBTA? Okay, with that,
It does not have to be a board member. It can be anyone in the.
yeah, right. No, I know. We could ask others. I mean, we can say it's an open position, and I'd be happy to appoint somebody.
Maybe we could communicate that. Maybe there's somebody who commutes on the MBTA that would like to do it.
I mean, my thing is, if I'm going to go and be on the board, I want to be able to vote. If I can't vote, then
I don't know.
this was years and years ago. I couldn't tell you, but I recall going downtown a lot, going, why am I doing this? You know? Okay, so we're going to pass on that for right now. And then next up, we have to appoint the following traffic constables to terms serving June 30th, 2025. Stephen Buckley, Robert Karen, Shannon Casey, Carmen Cifuentes, Nicole Coursey, Kylie Davis, Sarah Jordan, Patrick O'Brien, Philip Powers, Ryan Riley, Kevin Rice Jr., Robert Savolt, John Shea, John Sheridan, and Brenda Stanley.
And there's one more that just would be a separate vote.
I'm sorry?
And there's one more that's a separate vote.
Okay, got it.
I'll move the names listed to be appointed traffic constables for a term
So moved.
expiring 6/30/25.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. Lafreniere for the first grouping of candidates for traffic constables. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous and so carries. I assume we're doing the second one.
I'm recusing
So
myself.
you ideally,
Abstaining.
yep,
Which one?
you would be recusing yourself and you would step out of the room to protect yourself.
But it's up to you to decide how you recuse yourself.
Okay, so with Mr. Clark recusing himself fully from the deliberation, the chair will entertain a motion to appoint Ken Clark as traffic constable to a term
So moved.
expiring 6/30/25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Clark. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous and so carries with Mr. Clark recusing himself.
Oh, just a correction, I realize that that's a 3-year term and not a 1-year term for all of those,
For all of them?
for all of them.
Oh, so
We can just make that adjustment.
will be correct, they'll be corrected to 2020,
Yeah.
or 28, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Good to rejoin.
All set. Okay, you'll note that in the minutes, right? Okay, town manager appointments. Mrs. Lazarus, your 3 appointments, please.
So these are the annual appointments for the Inspector of Animals, who is Elizabeth Jeffress, the Animal Control Officer, William Proctor, and the fence viewer, Ed Harrow. And those are 1-year terms.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the 3 individuals?
I just always like to ask about the animal control officer, because I do hear a lot of complaints about he's hard to reach, but it's not a full-time position, I believe.
It's a part-time position.
It's a part-time position, so that's why they don't always get him when something comes up. Okay.
Any further questions?
Just what does the inspector of fences do?
Fence viewer, so it's an unpaid position, and when there are sometimes disputes among people regarding fences, or a fence issue comes up, maybe there's a fence at a corner, maybe ability, those kinds of things, the fence viewer can be involved in that. And it's, people usually call on the fence viewer to address a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So anybody want to make a motion on those 3, please?
I move to confirm the town manager's appointment of the following town officials to a 1-year term. Inspector of Animals, Elizabeth Jeffers, Animal Control Officer, William Proctor, and Fence Viewer, Ed Harrow.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All set. The Sustainable Green Committee. Hang on one sec here. Yeah, that's in a separate thing, so we'll come back to that. All right, so we're now to item number 6, if I'm looking at everything correctly. Right, we're done with 5. Okay. Item number 6, the Select Board will hear an update on the planning and process to establish a cultural district in Hopkinton. Elaine.
Julia Chun is here to discuss cultural district proposal.
Great. Hi, Julia.
How are you?
Thanks for coming tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So there's already been some great progress on the cultural district. Cultural districts are designations created by the Mass Cultural Council. Our town has a cultural council that has been working towards designating a map of assets for the past 3 or 4 years. We have 57 identified assets, including things such as the Hopkinton Public Library, Hopkinton Center for Arts. We have our several different business owners in town who are artists. And so although the cultural district designation is currently on pause due to program restructuring, we will be having, sorry, I'm just gonna lift this mic. Our officers over at Mass Cultural Council coming in for a visit at the end of the month, and we would love to have all of you or some of you come as representatives of the town to learn more about the district and also go on the tour with us.
Great. Did you say 57 assets?
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a pretty strong inventory, right?
Yes, yeah. So there's currently, I think, over 50 cultural districts across the state. These are districts that are set up to entice more artists to come to town. It's supposed to be a stronghold for the economic district. And so we're really looking forward to making this an establishment in the town and also leveraging the current assets that exist.
Okay.
And do you have a date for this?
Yes.
End of the month?
It's July 30th from 10:30 to 12 p.m.
Where is that, here at Town Hall?
We'll be meeting at Town Hall, yes.
It's in the middle of the day, but I would like to try to come.
And where are you meeting?
At Town Hall.
Town Hall.
So maybe you said this, would that district then be like town-wide, or is it confined to a specific area, like the historic district? And
It's set for, I believe, 1 to 1.5 miles, primarily in the downtown district and encompassing the historical district. They've been very liberal and generous with that definition. So if we wanted to include an asset that's not in the downtown district, they would allow us to do so.
And then does that come with it some zoning opportunities and/or zoning restrictions?
No zoning restrictions. We would be able to designate special zoning overlays, but it doesn't inherently impact the zoning we have.
But it allows us to apply for state grants.
Yes.
For cultural districts. It comes without the historic district restrictions, but the benefit of the grants. To have like Natick has one. If you go to downtown Natick, you'll see it. They have events and banners, and their library is also historic.
Yeah, lots of marketing opportunities there as well.
Any questions, Joe?
No questions. I think it's great. I'm out of town on the 30th, out of the state, but I wish I was around to attend.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Anything else you'd like to share?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Sounds like a great opportunity for the town, and I think we get lots of benefits and maintain, our opportunity to manage as we need to. So that's great.
And I think the next item is me as well, so I'll just,
Okay, just hang right there.
yes.
Elaine, anything on the Cultural Council from your vantage point?
Just one question. So when they visit, will they be walking the proposed district as well?
Yes, we'll be walking. So please, if you are coming, wear comfortable walking shoes. There's a heat wave currently, so I'm assuming it'll be hot that day too. So just light clothing. And then we will be going to the Hopkinton Center for the Arts. And so it's possible that we'll arrange vehicles if it's a very hot day.
Okay.
So this HCA would be within the envelope, but kind of one off to the side there in terms of geographic location.
Yes.
There's hopes of putting the International Marathon Center in it too, but that's also one that's a little further.
All right, great. You all set?
Yep, all set.
All right, so that will be, and thank you for that, Julia, a very interesting opportunity for the town. Let's move to item 7 then, okay? Municipal aggregation plan. The select board will hear an update on the municipal aggregation plan and process. Elaine, I'll throw it to you first.
So several years ago, I think it was 2013, the select board voted to enter into the municipal aggregation program. And at that time, the board, even though it voted to do that, it determined later that the terms were not advantageous to residents. So advance a number of years, and the program has changed. And so the town began reestablishing itself in the municipal aggregation program and process. And so that's been going on for a year or so now, perhaps longer. And Julia has begun working on that and is now our point person on municipal aggregation. And it involves electricity and where we get our electricity. So Julia will explain a bit more about that and where we are right now in the process.
Can you just repeat the electricity piece of that again for me, please?
So if I remember correctly, so the supplier of electricity is Eversource, and that remains the same, but it's purchased from or through another vendor, and it may be at a different price.
Yes, so there's a distributor and a supplier of electricity. Municipal aggregation basically allows the municipality to set contract terms for anyone who lives or resides in the town. The only folks...
Hang on one sec. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm going to recuse myself from this topic because of my involvement in the solar industry where we generate electricity for certain municipalities.
Sure.
So I'm going to step off the board, and the vice chair will handle it from here. Excuse me one second. Wayne, please note that I'm leaving the room. Thanks, Julie.
Would you please continue that explanation?
Sure, of course. So anyone who resides or is located within the town would automatically be opted into this aggregation plan. They have the option to either opt out of the plan at any time or to opt up or down to different level tiers. The tiers are differently priced, and they also have different compositions of green electricity. With this program right now, we're at the stage where we're working with our consultant, Mass Power Choice. They have created a draft plan that has been approved to be moved on to DPU, Department of Public Utilities approval by the Department of Energy Resources. And so we're well positioned now to have a public comment period for 30 days where we'll introduce the draft plan to residents, allow them to provide us with any feedback for the plan, and then it will be submitted for DPU approval. Currently, the timeline is about 4 months for that. And then 30 days after the approval, the consultant and the town will go out to put out an RFP for the electricity supply.
Now, we have to have, we're going to have a public forum on this?
Yes.
Okay. A little hard to do in August.
Could that wait till September?
You know, unless we have a way that we can schedule a public forum. But we do want most of the public to come. I'd like to schedule it early September.
I don't disagree. I just want to know both your kind of recommendations here, what you're thinking on timing.
So I've had residents reach out excited about moving this program along as quickly as possible. And so my recommendation would be to have the public forum closer to the end of the month, but have a virtual option available for folks who are not in town then, so that they can queue in and participate over Zoom.
And then at the end of the process,
How do we, okay, how are we going to get this information out to the public?
So our consultant has immense experience in explaining this very technical information to the public, and so they'll be present at the forum and they'll be doing a presentation.
I'm going over this. There's a lot of information
It is.
here. And we want to get it out. Yes. Yes.
Hi, folks. Jeff Rowland, I chair the Sustainable Green Committee. Before Julia took over the municipal...
Help out with this.
So we were doing the research on municipal aggregation before Julia joined. So aggregation is actually incredibly common throughout the state. About half the towns in the state have aggregation plans, so it's a very standardized process at this point. Our research showed that over the past, I think it was 3 to 5 years that we were looking at data, that towns that had aggregation plans, the vast majority of them were paying below market rates throughout those periods, while our rates were going up and down, usually up in these past few years. So the sooner that we can get this done, we can save residents and local businesses money through their electric rates, ideally. It's not a guarantee. And we have the potential to also reduce our carbon emissions in the process. So like Julia mentioned, it's very standardized. There are 2, maybe 3 vendors throughout the state that do this. When towns opt to join a plan, they send out flyers, mailings, all sorts of public notices. It's a pretty good process, actually. So I think the public forum, it's required, but I don't think delaying it will really change much for the town. And I think we have an opportunity to, get the benefits sooner.
We'll get something mailed to their house.
Absolutely. That's how it works.
So we've already received the sample mail-out materials from our consultant. So those have already been reviewed both by myself and the Department of Energy Resources. So again, we're well positioned. I think that even though the public comment period is only 30 days, there's plenty of time in which residents can reach out to either the consultant or myself and provide feedback throughout the process.
And then timing-wise, your recommendation by the end of the month kicks off the 30 days. At the end of that, it goes to RFP, and you said there's really 3?
It's not an RFP, so we already have our consultant. Essentially, the plan would go straight to DPU, Department of Public Utilities, in which there would be 4 months for approval process. That lands us approximately end of November. From then on, we would issue an RFP for the energy supply, and hopefully we'll have a plan ready for us by the end of December.
And to clarify, the 2 or 3 I mentioned were the consultants that work throughout the state.
Okay, not the providers.
Correct, and we already have our consultant.
Say, got it.
And so
I wish we had this overview that you gave us, overhead for the public. Can we get this for our next meeting?
Certainly. That is just a packet from the state. This was produced last year. There are new updates from the Department of Public Utilities that were published 2 months ago. And so we'll have a similar presentation at the public forum that's updated.
And so people would have until December then to opt out, right?
They would have, after the plan is established, they can opt out. Mm-hmm.
I was just worried that they would have to decide within 30 days. So I think 4 months is plenty of time for people to make up their mind. And I definitely would not opt out, but I know some people will want to do that.
Right. The plans tend to be very flexible. They can switch tiers within the plan. They can opt out at any time. Opting back in can change the rate that they're going to pay, depending on the rates that we get. But that hasn't been determined yet.
So I'm in agreement with it. Makes sense now. Thank you. What do you guys need from the board to kind of move forward with the end of July, kind of kick off?
Mm-hmm.
No, what do you need from the board?
Oh, what do we need from the board?
Yeah.
We don't really need anything from the board. This was
Okay.
really just a way for us to introduce the plan, make sure that everyone's, included in the conversation before we kick off that public comment period. And we would, of course, love you to attend the public comment period as well.
Yep. I mean, I certainly, Mary Jo, you brought up a valid point about people being gone over the summer, but it sounds like But it sounds like with the time frame, they have a whole month to make a comment. There will be lots of time after that to decide whether to opt in or opt out.
Yeah, if they want this done by the end of this month, it's really 2 weeks.
But it sounds like that's feasible.
But it's still 30 days total.
Yeah, that
Even though the
kicks
forum would
off
be.
the 30-day public comment.
That kicks it off, the end of this month. So it's in August. People are coming back in August. Kids will be going to school the end of August. So you'll have a better forum then. More people then, I think, in August than you will in right now.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we hold the forum end of August as opposed to end of this month?
That's my suggestion.
Okay. I'm happy to have a conversation with our consultant and see what they would recommend as well. Again, they have the 30 days and we can have a virtual forum as well. And so, Elaine.
Can I just clarify? So the point where a resident would be making a decision about what they want to do is after the RFP where you have suppliers, correct?
No, so we have the draft plan completed right now. So we would have the public forum and then they would have 30 days after that forum to provide feedback. The prices, the residents don't have any feedback to weigh in on. Those are just the prices we'll get from the RFP process. After the plan is implemented and approved by DPU, the residents can opt in or opt out or up and down at any point in the program.
So it's many months before a resident would have to make a decision on what they want to do. And there'll be multiple opportunities to hear about the program and additional public comment periods and so forth.
Yes.
Yeah.
So starting in the end of July just starts a chain of public comment periods and opportunities for residents.
It basically kicks off a 5-month process. So sooner the better.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be held virtually, which I think is great, can that be recorded so that people can go see it view it after the fact inside that 30 days?
I'd have to confirm with our consultant, but I don't see why that would be an issue.
I think that would be helpful for people, to Mary Jo's point, you don't have to show up at a certain time. That would allow them, because it seems like a lot of work's been done in the background to get this thing going. Let's not slow it down anymore. Give people plenty of options to review what's been said and make comment.
That sounds good.
As many people as possible. Yep. And I know that the last 2 weeks in July are the heaviest vacation weeks of the year for everybody, except for the week of the 4th. But the last 2 weeks in July, the It's like no traffic or anything. It's amazing.
Thank goodness.
Get it out there.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions regarding the plan?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you both.
If you don't mind, I'll stick around. I'm next on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you for doing that.
Not a problem.
Item number 8, the Sustainable Green Committee. The Select Board will review a request of the Sustainable Green Committee to amend its committee charge. Lane, you want to kind of intro this to us?
Yes, I just want to note that in the draft that was in the packet and previously circulated, 2 things had been left off. So the one before you tonight includes in yellow 2 additional phrases that were left off the track changes version. And so this comes from the Sustainable Green Committee. They have proposed some changes to their charge to address a couple of items, and they're here to describe that and their process.
Thanks again for your time. Once again, I'm Jeff Rowland, Chair of the Sustainable Green Committee. With me is Linda Chiss, our Secretary.
Great. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, so I think the discussion that we had earlier on the Marathon Committee appointments was a really good example of the types of challenges that we've had. It's people coming into the committee not necessarily knowing what they're getting into and leading to turnover issues that we've had. We're a fairly large committee. We're 15 appointed members. I believe that makes us the largest appointed committee that there is in town. So a lot of people coming in and out over the years. So the first few updates here in the document are really more bookkeeping things to keep up to date on what we've been doing, aligning with projects that we've been working on, ensuring representation, and aligning with the school committee non-voting liaison. That's been working well for us. But the probably more interesting aspect of this is the update to the requirements at the end. I'll give you folks a minute to read those, but essentially, the committee has recommended that we add requirements to the charge that ensure that applicants understand what they're getting into, essentially. Hoping for people that have at least attended a meeting, are able to attend meetings, have reviewed, documents around the committee. And all of these have been developed through the course of challenges that we've had over the past couple of years with membership. And the problem is, once you have somebody that's been appointed that didn't know what they were getting into and then can't meet those commitments, then it can take months to go through that process again of, that person coming to that realization, resigning, going through the process of posting, the vacancy, waiting for, new applicants and for them to get appointed, which costs us time, getting work done on the committee. We don't have a legal charge like certain committees do. We don't, we're not the Conservation Commission, following wetlands laws. We are a working group. So what we get done is dependent on the time and effort that our committee members put in. I don't know if you want to add something, Linda.
No, just that having these requirements makes sense not only for our committee, maybe for other committees too. We just want to focus on our committee, of course, but it's not unique to us. As Jeff said, it apparently faced another committee. And the process of lost time and momentum also affects you guys. You might be having people coming back to reappoint positions every 3 months or something because if somebody joins who didn't really know what they were getting into, then you have to go through all that again. And the right time to do it is probably before they apply, not at the time they're being appointed or after certainly not after they've been appointed. That shouldn't be when you say, can you make the regular meetings? Did you know this involves a meeting with our committee? That should happen before the appointment is made.
Great. Thank you for that input and explanation of what you're looking for here. Anybody have any questions, comments?
This is a stupid little one. Non-voting member liaison from the select board and non-voting liaison from the school committee. You got dots there. What red and black in different orders and stuff. What's that entail?
That just shows that currently there is, the black means there already is a liaison from the select board.
We already have.
The red means we're recommending formally adding that to our charge because the select board member, because the school committee member has normally been liaisoning with us.
Okay.
Anybody else, questions?
I like the attendance.
I do have some comments, or did Mary Jo? Is she done?
I think so for the moment, yeah.
I think this is probably fine, and I assume these are all expectations and preferences, not requirements, correct?
No, we would like to make the ones that say expected, we say required qualifications. We would really like people to have said that they can attend meetings before they're appointed. And so that gets into a process issue of how we make them required. And we can talk about that tonight or not, but we wanted to at least get our charge updated to reflect this. And then we have preferred qualifications, which we would consider optional. And those would be, if there's two candidates for one open position, then you can use the preferred to help choose among them if you want to. But we feel that none of the things under required, if someone can't do those, we don't really see why they would be a good fit for the committee.
Okay. It's just, I understand you're having like a plethora of people apply at this moment in time, but like we look at the Veterans Committee and they've got like 4 vacancies they can't even fill, so they just need to kind of take anyone who would apply. But right now you can kind of be picky, but that might not always be the case. You might come to a time when you really probably would take whoever applied.
I have to say, because of the lag, when somebody finds out it's not for them, you now lose another 3 months, let's say, till they resign, you get another appointee, they come in, they come up to speed. So you've lost the months that person sat on the committee and didn't really want to be there or was discovering they didn't want to be there, plus you lose the time till they resign and pick a new one. So we asked you to not appoint recently because we'd almost rather not have someone than have someone who doesn't really want to be there because they didn't know what it was about.
Yeah, I hear you, and I understand what you're saying, but I've been on many, many committees myself, too, and it kind of ebbs and flows, and it's not always that way, so.
I'm sorry, can you say that?
It really ebbs and flows, the demand to be, sometimes there are 5 applicants for one spot, and then other times there's 4 vacancies and nobody applies. So it just really ebbs and flows, so I'm a little worried about making things required rather than recommended, but I understand the problem that you're having now, and many committees face that sort of situation too, that you get someone on and then they never come, but it's better than having no one, perhaps.
It really isn't, because then we face quorum issues and all that.
I really do understand what you're saying. Thanks.
Joe, anything?
No questions. I certainly get the intent here, right? And I feel like everything's worded because it's, how you enforce these things is probably the hardest part, right? You're setting expectations, though. I feel like that's specifically in the wording of some of these things, most monthly committee-like meetings. So I'm comfortable with it.
Elaine, is this something that we would need to bounce off town council? It is different than most other boards and committees in town in terms of the specifics. I think it's great management, by the way, but I just want to make sure we don't get ourselves into hot water elsewhere. I think this is something we would need to bounce off them.
Yeah.
You don't want to be restricting or limiting participation. We got to be careful that there's no First Amendment issues here. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff could, in some really great lawyer's mind, come out that we don't want to create.
Yeah, and I guess I'm concerned if it's a member who intends to meet all the required qualifications, at some point they need to take a pause or they can't meet it. What does that mean? Are we going to hear a request to remove someone? I guess I'm concerned about that.
And if we do it for this committee, which is a public body within town government, will we then have to do similar rules with other committees to be uniform and fair and consistent in expectations for serving, right?
Yeah, and
I think we need to bounce those types of questions off town council just to make sure that we don't open up a can of worms. If he or she says go, then I think it's great management. Like, these are our expectations. Hopefully you can meet them. If not, don't bother. But I think we should do that, take that step. Is everybody okay with engaging counsel on that?
I think the step would be good to make sure it's okay. Yeah.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I was liaison to this group a couple of years ago, and they're very much an active group. They're doing research. There's somebody doing, it's amazing the amount of time that the individuals put into it and do it. It's a little like the Marathon Committee, where these jobs are very specific, and they're doing a hell of a job, actually. But I can understand the requirement of attending meetings and of attending before you apply for the committee, because it's a new subject and a lot of people have got to catch up with it. Sustainable green stuff.
I think the two yellow highlighted additions, I don't think town council's going to have an issue with that at all. I think that makes perfect sense. I think having a non-voting liaison from the school committee makes perfect sense. It's just sort of the requirements down here. I just don't want to create something that will cause challenges for us in other ways. So with that, go ahead.
I'd like to ask a question. If town council says that it's a problem, would we be able to change it to recommended that applicants do this rather than required? And then the next step in either case would be how we enforce this, but I just want to get the question out there. If they say no to required, could they all just be preferred, if you will?
Yeah, if we bounce this off them, which we will, they'll come back with ideas about what could go, what you could change, what you could not change, that kind of thing. So I think we'd get that feedback, and we could share it with you at a future meeting. So maybe the thing to do is table it for this evening, and then Elaine, if you could take the charge of getting it sorted out with town council and get us feedback, and then we can put it on a future meeting here in the next couple of weeks or next couple of maybe month or two, and get it sorted out.
Yeah, totally understand the hesitancy. Thank you for being cautious here. I had hoped to talk to Vasuda before this meeting, but she's been on vacation for a bit. Because I do think towards the spirit of these qualifications, there are things that we can do procedurally with the way that applications are processed and managed to get closer to these goals as well.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that another time.
Different, and the boxes they would check would be different, so. All those kinds of reasons why I think it makes sense to have a legal eye at it.
Yeah, I have often wondered with the online form, are there any opportunities to add other default questions, like have you ever watched one of these committee meetings? Or would you be, just so that we'd have that answer to questions when we're appointing people, that they know what day it meets and they can make that time.
One idea I had that might be easy is you could add a question to the application form that says, have you please review the charge for this committee, and then how do you feel you meet what's asked for in the charge? And that would be a way to point people to the charge, which right now there isn't a good way, and that would point them to this and other things. And then if a committee had no requirements in their charge, that's fine. But if they did, at least the applicant would see it. And I think the committee you're on has a requirement in it about somebody has to be a lawyer or a realtor or something.
That's in the town bylaws, written that way. From the state law, yeah.
Okay.
But I do sometimes think we're appointing blind, too. So if we did have some standard questions we asked everyone, that could be helpful. But sometimes you never know what you're going to get to. Some volunteer you'd never heard of comes and they run with the committee and they do a great job, too. It's just hard to predict.
I will say I've been on the committee for 2.5 years, and most of the applicants who come to us, who we've known first because they've come to meetings or worked with us, have stayed around and been very satisfied. Most of the people who checked 3 boxes because they were advised to pick 3 committees in case the first one didn't work out didn't really last. So we think we have evidence that something like this would work.
Okay, so with that, let's table it for now. Thank you for the input. I think there's some really great management going on here, and maybe this would help all of us in some certain roles. But let's make sure we got our I's dotted and T's crossed. Okay?
All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Very much for coming in tonight and hanging in there with us. Item number 9 is the town manager report. The town manager shall report to us now, please.
So
I
first,
keep driving that home for a while.
an update on the Main Street Corridor project. Highlights of the update that were included are still waiting for transformers. Let's see, I just lost that. Still waiting for transformers from Eversource. They are working on the overhead relocations. Crown Castle is next in line, so they're going in line and removing the wires on the poles. And that work should be done by the end of September. When that's done, then Verizon will schedule the removal of the old utility poles. And this is primarily the part that's not underground, so it's west of the fire department, shall we say, police department. So those poles hopefully would be removed in the fall when all of those wires have been transferred to the new poles. So we will then have no double poles, hopefully, at that point. And then once the rest of the area up to Ash Street, the poles will come out once the undergrounding infrastructure is operational. There's a company out there repairing the peeling paint on the traffic poles. Will go through, they'll scrape it all off, and then they'll go through and paint them anew and apply the new surface to that. Amarillo will be mobilizing within the next 2 weeks, be on site the week of July 22nd. They'll be on the south side of the project, which is the fire department side, while the utilities will be on the north side, which is the town hall side, for example. And then regarding the PFAS treatment project.
Before you move on, if I could just jump in a little bit on the Main Street Corridor project. I have coordinated with Lane and had a couple of conversations myself with Joe Amarillo, who is the owner of Amarillo Construction. I've reached out to Eversource and had conversations with 3 different people trying to move this transformer thing along. They have been very receptive and understand that I won't stop calling until something happens. But I think we'll see how that all plays out. But since I got appointed as the liaison, I have done specific things with Eversource and with Amarillo, and we'll continue to keep you posted, but nothing concrete at the moment. But the buttons are getting pushed, and they're going to get pushed higher and higher.
Thank you. Regarding the PFAS treatment project, the system is operational and the water is flowing to households, that is filtered. There will be periodic sampling of that per DEP, and if all goes well in September, DPW anticipates requesting the select board to approve removing the bottled water rebate that's been in place since December of 2021. Because at that point, the water flowing will meet the standards, and there's no more need to purchase the bottled water.
Yeah, question. When can we, or you said that the water is flowing and everything, can we get something out there so that people will realize they don't have to buy their water anymore?
Well, they can still buy the water until we know that everything is as it should be through the testing. So those rebates are still in effect until this board formally votes to discontinue that. Anticipated that their request, if all goes well, would be in September. So people can still buy the bottled water if they choose to.
Okay, thank you.
Regarding the MWRA interconnection project with Southborough, representatives of each community have met in late June, and after a couple of discussions back and forth, there's been a decision to pause our activities on that until this board establishes a water and sewer advisory committee.
Did we say for sure we're going to do that?
Pardon me?
Did we say for sure we're doing that?
I think the board is continuing to discuss that.
Okay, I just hate to delay it when we haven't even started a draft framework for it. I hate to delay the project.
So I explained, I talked to the chair of Southborough and told her that we're very interested in trying to figure this out at some point someday, if it all makes sense for both communities, but I can't speak on behalf of the board yet because we voted on nothing. And she understood that. And I said, well, you know, and it's a big effort, and we want to appoint a group of citizens and, you know, professional staff to work with us to help understand the issues and explain the issues and build consensus around, you know, the direction we want to take with our water in Hopkinton. She understood that as well. There's a process, there's this design process going on right now, and there's this possibility that there's going to be a peer review as part of that design process. We already have funds for that, so that could continue or may not continue depending on how they want to do it in the interim. But she understood that we were trying to gather this group of people together, and that if we decide to do that, then, you know, they'd be reaching out as part, and be part of that process. And so she got that. I don't know about what that means for their decisions in Southborough directly, but that's what I explained to them.
I just worry about the term pause.
Well, staff here will continue working on identifying the pump station location, so we'll continue working on that.
Yeah, I think the design piece is ongoing, so it's not the whole thing is installed. It's just, you know, the IMA for something like that will be a monumental task. And I think she gets it.
And then the final item is the Central Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council, which the town has been a member of for several years, that the police department is requesting that it be renewed. So this organization provides specialized training for the police department. It also provides resources for large events such as the Boston Marathon. And so the renewal is requested, and the request is to authorize town manager to execute those documents. The annual cost to the town is $1,000, and it's included in the budget.
Okay. Do we have a question?
Yeah, any questions for Elaine on anything?
No, I think we need to make a motion, though, on the Law Enforcement Council renewal. That seems like a very small price to me, to pay for that specialized training for, you know, small towns like ours that can't, we don't have the resources of a big city, but to get that extra training.
You make a motion?
Yeah, so I'd make a motion to authorize the town manager to execute the necessary documents to renew the town's membership in the Central Mass Law Enforcement Council.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the table. Thank you for that. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous and so voted. Okay. Thank you, Elaine, for the town manager's report. I look forward to seeing Amarillo back here on July 22nd. That includes starting to cut the bike lanes to put the brick in, and they're going to kind of make a mess again before they clean it up. But they're going to see a lot of progress here in the next few weeks. Liaison reports and board invites. Item number 10, the select board will review and approve FY25 liaison assignments and committee memberships. The MBTA advisory board, we already took care of, right? By passing on that one. And then we did have in the packet the liaison list. I looked at it this evening and checked the ones that were open, which is fine. I didn't see any real conflicts anywhere, so I think we have a complete list other than with my chicken scratch on it there. So if someone's inclined to make that motion, we could get that done.
Just want to know, before you vote, there's, Joe, I know you've decided to be on the Open Space Preservation Commission, so that is a voting member, so they would be in touch with you once you.
So that means meetings. Going to those
You have to
meetings.
go to the meeting, so you can
You know
vote.
what I'm saying? Like this meeting, gotta go to that meeting.
But they don't meet very often, right? Once a month?
Monthly.
And do we need to have the committee liaison from the board?
It's part of the chart.
It's in there, so they were created by special legislation, so it's in there, but.
Yeah. No, someone has to do it.
You okay?
Yep.
They typically have a virtual. They typically have a virtual option.
I'm sorry?
They have a virtual option
There you go.
typically.
Yeah, you can just-
That's much better.
Okay. All right, so any other questions, any other concerns about anything that people have either signed up for or not signed up for? Does anybody have anything they would like that someone else has that we could trade cards with here, or everybody
There were
good?
no conflicts, right, in the end?
No.
Okay, then that's fine with me.
There were a couple that were typically done by the chair in the past, but I don't feel the need to do that. Like, I don't, there's certain positions in town that come with a lot of what have you. But again, they're liaison positions except for those that are voting positions. So I'm fine. Okay. So with no other questions or concerns or conflicts, does anybody want to make a motion to approve the liaison list? I think we have a motion here for it.
Yes, I would move to approve the FY25 liaison list as discussed, and to make the following voting membership appointments. Joe Clark to the Open Space Preservation Committee to a term expiring June 30th, 2026. And Irvine Tadero, is that you, Brian?
That's me.
That may not meet. And Brian Tadero, Brian Herr to the Irvine Tadero Properties Advisory.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous and so voted. And I know that Scheidel, he got the positions that he was interested in continuing with or seeking, correct? Correct. So there shouldn't be any conflict there. Okay, that's item 11. I'm sorry, item 11 is future board agenda items. Let me just touch on these real quick to make sure we're on top of this. Proposed approach to changes to the charge, membership, and work of the Upper Charles Trails Committee. Actually, if we could stop on that one for just a minute. I know this was something that was quite active a year or two back, but I haven't heard a whole lot about this in recent months, so I don't know what's going on there. Is that still alive and well, or?
So the last thing that was happening is this board allowed the Upper Charles Trail Committee to meet for the purpose of making recommendations to its charge. And they met a couple of times to do that. I don't believe they've finished, but there's no more meetings scheduled. So perhaps we could touch base with the chair to see.
Could you have somebody reach out to the chair and see if we could see what they have so far?
Yep.
And maybe we can see directly where it's headed? And
When did the board advise them to do that, roughly? But just like general time frame, how long have they?
Maybe 6 months or so ago.
6 months and they don't?
They've met a couple of times.
And they have met, yeah.
Let's just see where they are today. Let's see if they have any docs that they've got completed or started or what have you. And maybe we could take a look at that at the next meeting or two
I think
and see what's going on.
we shouldn't really let it drag out too much longer. It
Right.
was more than a year ago at town meeting that it was voted.
It's kind of festering in town, I think, a little bit too,
Yeah.
so. Okay, second one, consider forming an economic development advisory council, consider the town's approach to economic development. We talked about this not a month ago, and I think that Shido is taking a look at possible concepts there and organizations and so forth. So I think we're on it, at least right now. I don't know if we're ready to do anything per se. The LNG Plan Oversight and Advisory Committee, we barely touched on it the other night. It sure seems like the right thing to do in Hopkinton in this day and age, given the developments taking place, and even with the host community agreement in place for years with the development over there. I do think that something like this makes sense, but we'll come back to that for sure. Tax Relief Committee, Mary Jo, this was back in April of this year.
Yep.
I don't know if you're satisfied there, if anything ever came up. Have we covered it yet? Did you?
Well, yeah, the thing is, we kind of have to continue to cover it because they have more people all the time requesting relief, and they aren't allowed to solicit as a group. There's nothing they can't solicit, and so in order for people to even know about them, we just have to continue to talk about it. I'd like to have Sue Curies in when she's ready and talk about how it is. there's a different amount that they wound up with every year because it's volunteer contributions, and they've been running around 500, and a little more now, but then we lost a big contributor, and at one time we were given less than $100, you know, for a year or so, and it's just, there's no set way to, I mean, it was really good when we had that big contributor for many years, we had a set amount, but they don't have like a set amount anymore, and the only way is to reiterate it, just to say that.
What would be the ask of the board when we bring this up? What is it we're trying to accomplish?
Just to get the word out there that there is a tax relief committee and that they are on contributions only. They can't have a fundraiser. They can't solicit money. They can't do any of that stuff themselves. So it's just a publicity thing. We just have to keep it in the public's mind so that when the tax bill time comes, people will make a donation.
So the future agenda item might be a tax relief committee presentation, right, to the board, which is to the community, and kind of a refresher for everybody to see. Would that work?
Right.
Okay, Elaine, so something along those lines, like a refresher. Okay, next up, Amy, the MBTA community zoning compliance. I know that we had the town meeting situation, so.
Yeah, so I was waiting to officially be the planning board liaison again, so now that I am, I could try to reach out to John Gelsich and the planning board chair and maybe get some information from them to bring back to you.
Who is the new planning board chair?
Rob Benson.
Rob, okay, yeah, great. All right, so still pending, but you're okay with where we are today?
Yeah, I think we do need to bring it before our board because we really do have to communicate about this and the deadline.
Item number 6 was the update on the Tim Brennan situation. We did have that. We've tabled it at the moment, right?
Yep.
Questions around the arbitration. Item 7 is establish a water and sewer advisory committee to manage PFAS, the MWRA connection, and the enterprise funds. We touched on that earlier for a couple of minutes. I have sent to Mr. Manan, is that how he prefers that's the correct pronunciation, is that true? Am I getting that right?
I think so.
Manan, okay. I'll work on that. I have sent him ideas from my perspective about, you know, water and sewer and PFAS and the MWRA, and I know he had ideas about it in terms of PFAS, and, you know, when he did the presentation at the PFAS public forum a month or so back. So he's working, you know, my ideas into his ideas, and we're going to bring them back to you guys, and we'll all look at the ideas and figure out how to go forward. So that is kind of advancing, and he has that ball at the moment. Considering instituting limits on town department authority and spending and hiring by the end of July. So this one we haven't touched on yet, really. The election's over, the school committee situation's over, you know, we've got a stabilized government now, we've got a town manager in place, and now it's just time to get down to running the business of the town. And I've never worked for any organization that doesn't have multiple layers of authority to hire people. And I think in our situation with the debt service that's coming at us, we should go back to what we did in 2007, 8, 9, 9, 10, 11, whenever it was, and put in place a couple of LOAs, call it a hiring freeze, but it's not really a freeze, it's just a limits of authority that you have to get approval before you go. So we haven't talked about this yet, we haven't had it on the agenda yet. I would like to get that on the agenda for the next meeting. And then lastly, provide information, update on the matter concerning the release of unredacted documents. We did do that at our last meeting, and we're expecting a response from town council specific to corrective actions, and then we shall go from there on that one. Is there anything else on the future agenda items that folks want to add or discuss?
So kind of off of number 9, kind of separate thing we talked about tonight, understanding our options with town council, right? Elaine, we talked about that before. Just, I think it should be on there so that we can kind of review it at a future date, even if it's not the next one. But I do know there's a sense of urgency there.
Okay.
And then I really like how now that we have our town manager, The employee appointments was just part of the consent agenda. I love that. Do we still think about, once every other or every 3 meetings, have the new employees come for just welcome to Hopkinton and the picture very briefly at the beginning? I think it's worth.
I do think it's worth the public getting to meet the employees, but it could be brief.
Yeah, like no questions, just, bringing them up. Thank you for working for Hopkinton. Welcome to the town. Picture, and then they can be on their way.
That's great. I think that's a great idea. Okay, so new employees would be 11 periodic new employees. How about something like that?
Yep.
And then anybody else have any other future agenda items they want to add to the list?
Shai Dulett emailed us one about capital projects, review and prioritization.
I thought I saw that.
But he could explain that in person.
Yeah, okay. I did see the email, but I thought it was spelled out or something. It's not. Okay, yep. So
We also mentioned Upper Charles Trail, which we have already discussed tonight.
So the capital projects process?
Prioritization process.
Like putting all the projects together, it seems like, and then just reviewing, prioritizing them.
Okay.
And then we do have a committee for that, though, too, right? One of us must be the liaison, right, for capital improvements? Oh, it's the town managers.
Mary Jo.
I know the assessors try to do a very good job of this, but there's always people who say, they didn't know about this, they don't know about that. And I think that if we announce the exemptions as they come up, the exemption process, like this right now in August is the deadline for the exemption applications for the circuit breaker tax relief. So, and there'll be somebody who'll say they didn't hear about it because it's in August. And I think that we should that we should make an effort also at bringing up the dates and when these things are coming up.
Okay. Makes sense. All right. I think we are ready to wrap for the evening. Unless there's anything else somebody wants to discuss that is on the agenda somewhere. If not, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
I make a motion that we adjourn to August 6th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a good night.